Hi everybody, Steven here. In my previous video, I covered the embedded identity broker. We talked about what it is and how to set it up. In this video, we're going to look at the identity broker appliance, what it is, and how to set that up in your VCF9 environment. So you're going to want to stick around for that. See you in a bit. Hi everyone, thanks for sticking around. So in this video, I guess you can call it, a part two, but it really isn't. We're going to take a look at the identity broker appliance and how to set that up in VCF9. We covered the embedded version. You're going to want to watch that video, but I figure I'd better make another video on the appliance, how that one gets deployed. Now, before we jump into it, there's a small little lecture component, and we're going to jump right into the demo. I always like to bring this out at this point. For those of you that subscribe to the channel and send super thanks, again, 10 thumbs up, 20 thumbs up to you folks. Really appreciate the support. For those of you that that are new to the channel or have watched the previous videos and haven't subscribed, please consider subscribing to the channel. This is how I'm able to provide you with free content, right? Without subscribers, there's no content developer. So just, hey, click on that subscribe button, totally free. Okay, so why don't we get started? So first of all, what is an identity broker? An identity broker basically brokers our identity providers. So identity broker provides us with a single sign-on solution. So you may have multiple different applications. For example, in VMware Cloud Foundation, you have vCenter Server, you have NSX, you have VC Ops, you have VC for Networks, you have VC Automation, just to name a bunch, right? You could log into each individual one of these with local accounts, no problems. But with an identity broker, the broker can use an identity provider, like let's say Active Directory, LDAP, or whatever, right? Some other identity provider. And when you authenticate through that broker, the broker issues you a token. So now that you have that token, when you log into one environment, let's say you log into VC Ops, when you go to log into the other environment, let's say vCenter Server or NSX, it will look at your credentials and say, hey, you know what? You're allowed to go in there. It doesn't require you to re-log in, right? And I'll demo that. So this is really cool, okay? And I covered this in my first video, but I'll cover it again in case you didn't watch that. There's two different modes for the identity broker. You have the embedded deployment mode, and then you have the appliance deployment mode. The embedded, which I demoed in my other video, and I'll leave links for that at the end of this one. The embedded, notice here's my VCF environment. I have my NSX manager, I have my VC operations, automation, whatever. I have my vCenter server over here. What do we see? Yeah, we see NSX. The embedded, you can think of it as the built-in single sign-on for vCenter that's been around for a while, but they call it the embedded identity broker now. So that's built into vCenter. So you can utilize that, no problems. What's the issue with that? If your identity broker dies, let's say it's gone, you can no longer log into these other environments using, let's say, your identity provider. So let's say your Active Directory name, it won't work. You'll have to basically log in with local accounts. So it's not really the end of the world, but again, you'll need to fix that, okay? Now, with the vCenter Server, with the embedded version, again, it's embedded into vCenter Server, so you don't need to install anything else. When would the vCenter Server die? Well, let's say the host, the ESXi host, the vCenter Server is running on, dies. Well, vSphere HA would detect that failure and can restart vCenter Server, hence your identity broker back up, and then away you go. So it can be protected with vCenter HA. The appliance model, if I click on this picture here, this is by the way the tech docs. The appliance model, I don't really like this picture too much. Notice vCenter Server is over here now, and it's not over here where the identity broker is. This identity broker, there's three appliances, three VMs that are going to get deployed. So now you got three of them, and they're and it's providing you with high availability in case one should fail. No problems, you still got two. Okay. I don't know if a second one fails, if that would die. Probably you need a majority quorum, or else you'd have a split brain condition. So this is an example of one that you would want to use if you want higher availability, if that's an issue, or if you want to have one identity broker for multiple VCF environments. Let's go into here. So distinguishing features, they talk about it. I won't go through the whole thing, but reasons to choose a specific deployment. So choose the embedded if you want to use the identity broker that's with vCenter, no problems. But it says here, this can be a single point of failure if the management domain vCenter server goes down. And I talked about that. This other one, again, this is the appliance mode, right? It says can handle single sign-on failures. Okay, I just mentioned that because there's 3 VMs. One dies, you're okay, so better redundancy. If you need to connect more than one vCenter instance to your identity broker. So the embedded is if you have your single VCF instance and that's all you're doing, or if you got multiple single VCF instances and you want to manage them all individually of each other, you can still do that. But if you want to have, if you have multiple VCF instances and you want to be able to log into one identity broker and manage all those, that's when you go with the appliance. Okay. If the management domain vCenter is not accessible by some vCenter VCF component, choose the appliance mode. Okay, so this is kind of giving you the reasons why you do this. There is a limitation on the number of VCFs it can manage. Maximum of 5 VCF instances can be connected to the the identity broker appliance. Okay. If I click on single sign-on architecture, do they show me anything here? Here they kind of talk about some of the architectures here. So here they've got multiple VCF instances across 2 different regions. I don't really care about the regions here, to be honest with you. So I got VCF instance 1, I'm using the embedded there. VCF instance 2, I'm using the embedded there, and so on and so forth. So I would log in. Each one could use, again, a different external identity provider. They could notice that they could be using the same one here. But again, you would be logging into each of these VCF instances separately, okay? Because you get a separate token. Here's the other one. Again, I don't care about regions. But notice I got VCF instance 1, VCF instance 2, 3, 4, and 5. Looks like the identity broker appliance has been set up on VCF instance 2. I don't know why. That's just a picture, right? It'd probably be on number 1. It doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be. And so now all these VCF instances could use this identity broker. So I could sign in to one, and that same account could be used all across, the same token could be used across all those VCF instances. So they talk about that. Anyways, so that's that. Why don't we jump right into the demo, okay? Okay, so let's get started here. Let me log into my VCF operations. I'm going to log in with my local account because that's the whole point here. We need to set up our single sign-on. Okay, so there's a couple things I need to do first, okay? So I'm going to go into fleet management here, and under identity and access is where I would go through and start setting this up. But I need to do something first. I need to get the image for the identity manager appliance. So if I go into lifecycle here, and if I go under VCF management and overview, you'll see identity broker over here. But more importantly, under my binary management, if I go to install binaries, I don't see anything, okay? I need to set up my depot configuration. So let me select that. I'm going to select my offline depot. I'll click configure. And again, you can do it local path. I've got my web server set up. You need to watch my video on setting up the offline depot for the VMUG video. I'll leave that at the end for you to take a look at. So you definitely want to see that, right? So I'm going to basically type in, there's my web server, 172.20.10.35, and my username is on that one, just whatever VMware. And then I can actually go in, this is kind of weird, I don't know why I just can't type in a password, but I can select the predefined passwords for VCF. I don't have anything for that. I'm going to close it and add a new one. I don't know why I just can't just type one in, but anyways, that's just the way it is. I'll call this one my alias www.vclass.edu, and the enter password here. So I'll type in the password for that, and then I'll confirm the password. Then I'll type in whatever. I don't need a description, and the username is whatever VMware, and then I'll go add, and then whatever Google, and then over here I'll select that password. You can see it's down here right now, so I'll pick that. I'll say accept import certificate. And I'll say, okay, I'm not using any certificates. And we see that's actually connected. Now, when you go into binary management and you go install binaries, go to the install binaries. When I go to download the identity broker, notice it's not downloaded. When I click on download, it's going to give me an error, okay? I'm going to show you what I did before that, okay? So what I need to do is, let's go into here. This is my D drive, and then offline depot prod comp. Here is the VIDB, VMware or vSphere Identity Broker. I need to get this file over to my offline repository. I showed you how I set that up in that video, so you need to watch that. So what I did is it will be missing from there. So let me just cancel that. Let me go into my offline repository here. Again, and then over here, this is my folder for my offlines under a folder called WW. You'll see there's prod, comp, and what the folder you'll be missing if you make your offline depot is you'll see that you won't have this VIDB folder, right? So you need to copy that image or that appliance over into this folder. Okay, so you need to create this folder, and it's case sensitive. So VIDB, vSphere Identity Broker, and then in there place the file. And notice I made that, I'm using WinSCP, I made that readable to everybody. So I just went to properties and I made that readable for everyone. Okay, again, and that's it. So if you don't have that folder, you need to create that folder, copy that file into that. Where do we get that file? You got to log into Broadcom support and download it. Okay, and then once you've done that, you'll be able to say, okay, I want to download Identity Broker, and I'm going to click on download. And then at that point, we'll just give this thing a few seconds. It's going to churn away, and it's going to sit there saying in progress. This is probably going to take about 10 minutes in my lab environment, okay? So I'm going to stop the recording. It will come back when it's done, and then we'll continue on, okay? Well, that's done. It took about 10, 15 minutes in my lab environment. Okay, so now I got the install binaries are there. The Identity Broker's downloaded. What I now need to do, well, let's just jump right into it. Let's go into Identity and Access, and over here it gives you basically the rundown on single sign-on. I'm not going to read through the whole thing. I covered that in my first video, so I'll let you watch it. But there's a lot of checks that you have to do here that you have to understand. There'll be changes with the VCF components and single sign-on and stuff. And I ran through these in that previous video, okay, and with access control. So you need to read through these. I'm going to click on Continue. Now it's saying getting started with single sign-on. So I'm going to select my VCF instance. I'm going to get an error here. Let me show you. So let's go in. I picked my VCF instance. It's called my VCF. I don't got much of an imagination. Then it's going to tell me to pick the deployment mode. I'm going to go Start. This is very similar to that first video. And the only difference here is I'm going to pick Identity Broker Appliance. It's going to give me an error. There's no Identity Broker Appliances available. I didn't install it yet, so that's why it's complaining. All right. So let's go back to Lifecycle here. And under VCF Management, under Overview, there's my Identity Broker. It's already downloaded. We've seen that, okay? So Identity Broker, let me go Manage Identity Broker. And then from here, we're basically going to say, that's a new deployment. So we're going to basically say here, Identity Broker, Continue, all right? Then from here, it's going to ask us what type of installs we want. Do we want to do a new or import? This is going to be a new install, all right? I can't see us doing an import because this is brand new. The only size that we get a choice from is small, and they talk about view and size and info here. There's only one choice. I guess there's going to be some choices down the road. This is new. So I'm going to click Next. You'll see all the different tabs we got to go through here. So I'm going to click on Next. Now it's asking me to select a certificate. I don't have one for this, so I'm going to create one. I'm going to click on plus, Generate Certificate, and I'm going to give this an alias. So I'm just going to give it the alias of VCF IDB vclass.edu. That's the name I'm going to call it. The common name, I'm just going to basically call it the same thing, VCF IDB.vclass, so VCF Identity Broker. Okay. My organization, you type in your organization. Mine, I'm going to type in Tech Unglued. You can see I kind of went through this already before. I do all my tests beforehand. And then what organization, I'll say it's YouTube, whatever. My country code is CA for Canada. Again, you'll put in your relevant information, and then my town is Buckhorn, my state is Ontario. And the key length, I'm just going to leave it at 2048 bits. Again, you can pick a larger one if you want. Now it's asking me for the domain name or the IP address, okay? So I'm going to type in the fully qualified domain name of my Identity Broker. So I'm going to type in VCF IDB Identity Broker.vclass .edu, and I do have that set up in DNS. So it's important that you have that set up. So I'm going to generate my certificate. I just sit back and wait. Now I'll select that certificate. There it is right there. Okay. Excuse me. So you see it's good for almost 2 years, and there's the information here. You can change these certificates afterwards. I'll probably do a video on certificate management down the road. But anyways, I'm going to go next. And now, by the way, that's a self-signed certificate I just did there. Now it's asking me, okay, what vCenter server am I going to be using? I'm setting this up in the management domain. So I'm going to pick my vCenter server. I only got the one. I'll pick the cluster. This is my management domain cluster. If I got a folder or resource pools, I could put it in there if I want to, these VMs, but I don't care. I'm not going to bother. What network, what port group is this going to be connected to? I am going to put this on my VM management port group. So let me just go to here, port group VM management. That's what VCF created for me. So I'm going to put it on my management network. And what data store? I'm using vSAN for my management domain. So I'm just going to pick the vSAN data store. So pretty straightforward stuff there. I'm going to click next. Now it's asking me for the domain name. It'll be vclass.edu. The domain search. Did I make a typo there? No. Domain search will be vclass.edu as well. And then this is where I kind of find it's a little weird, the interface. Add a new server, edit existing servers. So under DNS servers here, I'm going to say edit. And these are the servers that I've set up, or in my case, DNS server I set up with VCF when I did my install. So it kind of said, oh, here's your DNS servers. Do you want to use these? And that's what I'm going to pick. I'll say, yeah, I want to use those DNS servers. So you see it there. What about NTP? I'll say use host time or use NTP server. Same kind of thing with NTP. When I set up my management domain, my VCF management domain, I specified NTP servers. So I'm going to pick those NTP servers that I've set up. I could have added in different ones if I wanted to. What's the IP? What's the gateway? What's the management gateway for these identity broker appliances? So mine's 172.20.10.10. And the subnet mask 255.255.255. That's 0. Okay, so pretty straightforward. A little weird, these little boxes here. But again, that's kind of how I remember it. I'm going to go next. Now under network, sorry, is that network? Let me give it a few things. Nope. Under components, basically I'm going to type in the fully qualified domain name of the identity broker. So vcf.idb.class.edu. The certificate, again, I'm picking that certificate. And component password again. This is what password do I want to put on here? Now, just like that password I did before, I'm actually going to pick the VCOP user ID password, the root password for that. Because I know what the password for my VCOP is. So I'm going to pick that one, okay? I didn't have to. I could have created my own other one here if I want to. Now, over here under node prefixes, I got the VIDB-management. Again, I can stick with that. This there's a Kubernetes pods and clusters or containers in here. So this is this internal network for your containers, your Kubernetes containers to talk to each other. That looks good to me. I'm just going to leave it alone. And remember, it's going to deploy 3 of these things. And it's asking me for a virtual IP. So there'll be an IP address of a virtual IP address that will connect to that. So I'm going to type in 172.20. Oh, 172.20.10.120 in my lab environment. Then it's asking me, do I need a, oh, sorry, I forgot it's 24. Oh, there we go. I made a mistake. Don't have to put a /24. 120. There it is. Okay. So I have this in my DNS server. My this fully qualified domain name is pointing to this virtual IP. Okay. Do I want to set up additional virtual IPs? I don't know why I would want to do that, but I don't really need additional virtual IPs here. Maybe down the road, but I don't see the point of it. Let's hit the information. Additional virtual IPs for the component. This is optional, and up to 2 additional virtual IPs are allowed. Not sure why you would need something like that, to be honest with you, but anyways, I'm going to leave it alone. Cluster node IP, again, remember there's 3 nodes, okay? You got the virtual IP and there's 3 nodes. So, and we need basically 4 IPs here. So 172.20.10.121. I'm going to pick the next IP. I'm going to say go to 172.20.10.125, okay? I'm actually giving an extra IP there. You need 4, okay? 1 for each 3 nodes, the virtual IP, and a spare. If one of the nodes have failed, it kind of uses that. All right, so I'm going to go add. I give it a 5th one extra. And I'm going to go next. Now over here, it's going to run the pre-checks. I'll click on run pre-checks, and it's going to go through and test things out. This doesn't take too long. But again, if there's any problems here, you need to fix this up. While we're waiting, hey, if you haven't subscribed to the channel and you're watching this, please consider supporting the channel, doing me a favor to helping you just by clicking that subscribe button. Totally free. You click that, boom, that helps out with the channel and the YouTube analytics. Also, leaving comments and questions down below and sharing videos also help out with the channel. So we can see here data validation is passed, infrastructure validation is passed, and it's now looking at the identity broker validations. Again, we can probably expand this stuff and look a little bit more in detail what's going on here. If there was a problem, we'd come back and tell you, and then you'd have to go in here and fix it. For example, I didn't have my proper DNS set up. I had it mapped to a different IP, and it came back and complained about that, right? So it does actually a pretty good job in validating some of this stuff. So we're going through here. We just wait, we wait, and everything's looking good. So it says all validations passed. Run. If it had failed, I would say, oh, okay, let me go see what it is, go and fix whatever it is, come back and rerun the pre-check. Obviously, I didn't have any fails, and I'm going to click on next. Now, at this point here, it says, talks about, it looks like an error. It's more of more informational. Parallel deployments of automation and identity brokers are not allowed. If an automation or identity broker deployment request is in progress, wait for it to be completed before submitting this request. So it's kind of saying if you got something else deploying, you got to wait, right? I'm not sure why it comes up. You know, I thought there was a problem there when I saw it, but no, everything's looking good. I'm just going to hit submit. And then at that point, there we go. It kind of shows us this little cool little, notice there's little stages here, stages 1 through to 12, and it's validating the environment. It's going through it. I can actually go back to tasks over here. It lists a bunch of tasks here. So you'll see this one's actually in progress. Let me click on that in progress one. And you'll see I'm already on stage 3. Okay, so that first stage only took about, less than a second. This one took about 3 seconds. Stage 2, validate service platform environment. That's stage 3 here. So it says about 640 milliseconds. Okay, a second would be okay. I'm not that picky about knowing it to the millisecond. This is the long stage right here. We're not going to watch this whole thing, okay? Deploy the appliance cluster, right? This will probably take a few seconds to get over into this stage here, but this is the stage that takes the longest, okay? When I say the longest, in my lab environment, there we go. It just jumped into that stage. It's deploying it now. So it's going to deploy those 3 appliances, and we'll see that when it's done. This is going to take about 2 hours in my lab environment. Right now, I have my VCF environment on my slow SAS drives because it's chewing back a lot of space, and I got tons of space there, but it means it's a little slower. I got to actually get some, I'll probably do a separate video on it. I got to get some larger SSDs for my environment, and I'll probably be able to do that maybe in another week or so. I was hoping to do it now, but anyways, we're not going to sit back and watch this thing go through. Like I said, stage 4 here takes about 2 hours in my lab environment. Maybe your environment might take an hour, hour and a half. That's the longest part. All these other ones here go by fairly quickly within minutes, right? So in my environment, this whole process takes close to about 2 hours and 30 minutes. So we're not going to sit here and watch this. So I'm going to stop recording, and we're going to come back in about 3 hours, and we'll see where we are, or maybe tomorrow. We'll see what happens. So see you back in a bit. Okay, so we're back. That took less time than I thought it was, but this is the next day for me. I just let it run overnight. Looks like stage 4 only took less than an hour. Last time I did this, it took over 2 hours, but hey, I'm in a weird nested environment, so who knows. So in total, that took about an hour and 20 minutes, and you see the different stages as it kind of went through here, okay? So that's done. What do we need to do next? Let's go into identity and access. Let's go into select my VCF. From there, I've got my VCF. That's my VCF environment. That's what I called it, my VCF. Probably should have called it something a little bit better than that. Anyways, so then I'm going to choose my deployment mode. I'm going to click start. And then before I got an error, now it should work. Actually, while that's churning, let's just take a look and see what it installed for me. So if I go to my vCenter server appliance, if I go advanced, okay, appliance here, and I log into it. Come on, and I'll log into my appliance. We should see a couple of VMs deployed. And come on, probably could have showed you this afterwards, but here we go. So we actually see VIDB management, VIDB management again, and a management. It's got these little weird characters appended to the end. So it deployed 3 VMs here. There's the identity broker. So let's go back into here. So now under choose my deployment mode. So I'm back in VCOps. I'm going to say identity broker appliance. Remember before when I selected that, it gave me an error saying you don't have it deployed, but I do. I'll click on next. And we let it churn away for a bit. So there we go. That's it. Now I'm going to configure my identity provider. So you got your broker. That's done. Got the provider. So the broker's doing our single sign-on. Let's look at the provider now. So we'll click on that. And I've got my Active Directory set up here. So I'm going to pick my identity provider. And there's a whole list of different providers that are supported. I'm just going to do Active Directory over LDAP. That's what I have. I'm going to click on next. I'm going to click on configure, and then it's going to ask me for my directory name. Mine's going to be called vClass. Do I want to enable DNS server location? In other words, my DNS server is the domain controller, so yeah, I'm going to enable that. I didn't configure a global catalog. I don't think I did anyways. I'm just going to leave that disconnected. Do I want to enable LDAP-S, secure LDAP or encrypted connection? I'm in my lab environment. I don't care. You would have to create a certificate for that. I'm just going to leave that deselected, okay, just for mine. And then the search attribute, I'm going to use SAML accounts here or user principal. I'm just going to use the default. My distinguished name and common name here is, again, user, vClass, and then edu. And my bind user is going to be the administrator in that domain. So vclass.ecu and its password. And I'll take that in and I'll go next. And that looks good. I go finished. And if everything goes well, I shouldn't get any errors here. All right, so let's let that churn away for a few seconds. And we'll take it from there. Okay, here we go. So I got my broker set up. I just set up an identity provider. I could set up other ones if I wanted to. I only got the one. Now I want to configure user and group provisioning. So I'm going to go configure. Again, there's my directory information, just a review. And then at this point here, again, this is it's doing attribute mapping and saying this attribute here in VCOps is going to map to this attribute in Active Directory. And again, you'll see everything is kind of, I'm going to leave the defaults here. You'll notice there's an employee ID. Again, I'm going to say, yeah, the employee ID. Yeah, there's one over there. I'll pick that. So if yours is different, you're going to have to pick that. I covered that in that first video as well. But for the most part, this stuff looks pretty straightforward. I'll click next. Now it's asking me, do I want to sync nested groups? Now it says search for group names and select Active Directory distinguished names that you want to sync. So if I got groups within a group, and I select a group, I want to sync all those, right? Now this a little note here says all users from the selected group and its nested groups are synced without maintaining the group hierarchy. Disable this option for large AD setups and manually select the required groups. So in a large AD setup, what's a large AD setup? Your guess is as good as mine. What they're saying is instead of picking a group and then getting all the groups underneath that, maybe just pick and choose the groups within those groups that you need, right? So that's what I'm going to do, okay? Here's my distinguished name that I'm going to use as before, and it's going to come back and look for groups for me, right? So now, again, it showed me a bunch of groups, and there's a bunch of AD groups here. I actually created, let me go to the next page. I actually created a couple of groups. Here we go, ops admin and ops user. I created these groups here. So I'll say, yeah, I want to use those groups. You can have other groups if you want to. I just picked those. I just created those in Active Directory. Just to clear, I created those in Active Directory and I'm selecting those here. So I'll go next. Now it's asking me user provision. And again, here's my common name and distinguish name. And I'm going to say do a search. So now notice it says 0 users are selected. I'll do a search called VCF. I've got some users that the name starts with VCF, like VCF admin, VCF priv, VCF user. I can select those. Okay, so notice I got 3 users selected. Maybe I want to look for another one. I'll do Steve, search, and then there's a user Steve there. Now there's 4 selected. If I open this up, you'll see there's the 4. Well, maybe I made a mistake. I can remove one. I'm going to go next, and basically at that point, I'm just going to click finished, and away we go. All right, and then I am done. So we'll click on that, and we still got a few more steps to do. So it's kind of going through this right now, enabling single sign-on. So we're about 67%. We'll give it a few seconds here, and then we'll see what happens. And by the way, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, I think I already mentioned that before. I think it was yesterday. I don't know. I can't remember. Hey, support the channel. Click that subscribe button. Come on. Just waiting for this thing to get caught up. I'll probably pause this recording. Oh, I'm sorry. I realized something here. I'm down here in the configure components part. I'm going to click on start, and then you'll see over here vCenter and NSX. They are not configured. If you watched my first video, hopefully you did on the embedded one, the vCenter server was automatically configured because the single sign-on was part of vCenter. So now I got to basically go and configure it. So I'll say select those, and I'll say configure. All right. Now it's telling me log in as the local. Even though it's been configured for this, I need to log into each component as the local administrator and then give access to the particular users, right? So I'm going to confirm, yeah, I understand that. I'll click continue. And then we give it a few seconds here. And we still have other things to do, which I covered in the first video, but I'll do it for completion here. So there I go. I'm done. I go finish setup. Now it's talking about important notes on backup. You folks are going to read that on your own. But important notes on role assignment. It says log in as a local admin to each component, like vCenter, NSX. Assign service roles to provisioned users and groups. That's those 80 groups or users I created or added to enable single sign-on access. The list of components under the component configuration at the end of the setup, right? So I'm going to click continue. So I need to go in and do that. Now, I still got a couple other things. It showed me NSX and it showed me vCenter. What about ops? What about automation, right? Let's let this spin up. So, okay, so all that's done. It's showing me everything is finished here. Let me go into VCF management. Under VCF management, you'll see the operations appliance, enable single sign-on. You'll see the automation appliance, enable single sign-on. They haven't been done automatically. So I'm going to say, yeah, let's do it, right? There's the identity broker I'm going to use, and I'll say configure. And again, it comes up and tells me to enable single sign-on, assign the required service roles to users or groups. So it's telling me I still have to do this other step. Okay, no problems. And then, so it's done, right? Then the automation appliance. And I'll say continue, and then I'll say configure, and it's going to do basically the same thing. So now what I've done is so here we go, say configure, and there we go. So vCenter, NSX, VCOps, and automation are all set up with the same identity broker. I now need to set up access. I'm just going to stop my recording here in case something crashes, and we'll start up. So we'll take a look at those individual components right now. Okay, so let's get started. I always like to break up my recordings, as I always mention my videos, just in case it crashes. I don't have to start right from beginning. At least I can just have to recover the one little piece. So let's go into, we have to set up our rights here. So we're in VCOps. Let's do this one first. How about that? So I've got it set up with identity broker. Identity broker is using that identity provider, my Active Directory. Let's go into administration. Let's go into, where is it? Control panel. From there, you'll see authentication sources. Because I enabled single sign-on for VCF, which I just showed you 2 seconds ago or a minute ago, I see this over here. So my identity sources are already configured here with this identity broker. Let's go back to control panel. Let's go to access control. So now I want to set up users from AD to access this. So I'm going to go into, I'll click on these 3 dots here. I'll go import from source. Source will be my VCF single sign-on that I created. And I'm going to look for users VCF. I will search. And then there's that VCF admin. So I'm going to pick that one. I'm going to go next. I don't care about any groups. I'm going to go. So I just picked that one user here. Now I can go in and edit this user, and you'll see the passwords, all that kind of stuff here. I can't. Passwords aren't administered here. They're administered in Active Directory, just to be on the safe side. Over here, assign roles and scopes. So I'm going to basically assign, I guess I'll give it the administrator role, and the scope will be for everything, okay, all objects, and I'll save, okay. I'll probably do a separate video on role-based access control later on. But anyways, I'm going to give that person admin control in VCOps. Now we need to do the same thing for vCenter, NSX, and automation. So let's go into, well, we already got vCenter opened up. So let's go into under here, administration, under global permissions. Under global permissions, we'll go add. And then again, we'll pick the vclass.edu. We see it over there now. Our user will type in VCF. And there's that VCF admin. I'll give it the administrator role, and I'll say propagate to all children, and I'll say okay. And I'm done there in vCenter. Let's go to NSX. Come on, log into NSX. And advance. Here we go. Come on. There we go. I can't sign in with that as of yet. I'm going to sign in with my local account, because I haven't given anybody in Active Directory any permissions. That's why I couldn't sign in with that single sign-on. So let's say whatever, skip. Let's go with the daylight mode. That's just me. I'm going to go system. I'm going to scroll down to user management. Now over here it says, checking authentication. Yeah, so right now it says I can go add role for VCF single sign-on user. So great, let's click on that. I'll do my search here for VCF. And whether we see the VCF admin right there, there we go, VCF admin. What role am I going to give it? I'm going to give it enterprise admin role. In this example, I'm making everybody kind of the enterprise admin role or the administrator of the environment. Not everybody, sorry, the VCF admin. So enterprise admin, I'll go add, I'll go apply, and I'll go save. So I've done VCOps, I've done NSX, I've done vCenter. We now need to go into automation. What's that one again? VCF auto.edu. I'll go advance, I go there. And there's other components we could have added in, like VCF for networks, which used to be called ARIA for networks, which used to call vRealize Network Insight. So here we go. We're signing in. Organization, system. I'll probably do a separate video on this. There's a lot to cover. So we'll continue. Stop redirecting. I don't want to go in with single sign-on because I haven't set that up yet. So admin. The password. Let's try that again. So now we're just going to say, well, I'll probably do separate videos on this, but anyways, let's continue to VCF automation. From there, we go into, there's access control. We'll click on that. You'll see there's the admin user. It's got the full name, whatever, and the effective role system administrator. Let's go import user. The source will be the VCF single sign-on. And this is the part, again, I'm not too keen on because I got to type the whole name, VCF admin at vclass.edu. And then I'll give the role, I guess the administrator role, or okay, system. Why not? I'll give it system administrator and then save. And there we go. So great. That's all set up now. Let me kill all that. I probably should have logged out. Let me log in now into VCOps. I'm going to log in with single sign-on. Nope. I might have made a typo there. Okay, so there was a bit of a problem there with DNS. So when I clicked on it and I said single sign-on, okay, now it's coming up. It couldn't find my VCF identity. It couldn't find the identity broker. I'm in the midst of transitioning my DNS over from one machine to another. The machine, the workstation that I'm on right now, is using actually a different DNS than my VCF environment. Long story. I didn't update it. That was the problem. So it couldn't resolve the VCF identity. It couldn't resolve the identity broker. So I'll say advanced, continue on. So we're logging into VCF. So now I'm going to log in as VCF admin at vclass.edu. Type in my password. Verify your credentials. Perhaps if I typed it correctly, would help out, right? So VCF admin at vclass.edu, and then the password. And we'll go log in. Let me give it a few seconds, and I'm logged in. Great. Let's go over to NSX. Let's say we're going with VCF single sign-on. Come on. Notice it automatically logged me in. Let me skip this. And it logged me in as VCF admin. This is the beauty of it. Let's go into vCenter and see if vCenter does the same thing. Single sign-on. Again, this is the advantage of using the identity broker. I don't have to keep logging in all the time. Look, it logged me in as VCF admin. We already did ops, NSX, vCenter. Let's do VCF auto. This one might be a bit different. It's going to ask me the organization name. I'll type in system. I'm going to click continue and single sign on. Let's go log in. Let's see if it's going to be picky or not. There we go. Oh, come on. Hurry up. There we go. So we're logged in. So that's the Identity Manager appliance. It's got 3 of them, and we talked about all that. So again, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you have any comments, if you have any questions, leave them in the comment section down below. Please do not send my emails to my LinkedIn with questions. I do not answer them there. I will answer all questions in the comment section. The LinkedIn email is only for, or LinkedIn is only for business-related stuff. But that's about it. Like I said, hope you enjoyed it. Leave comments, questions down below. If there's something you want to see me cover or do, please leave that down below, and I'll see what I can do about it. And that's it, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.